Al-Qaeda and the Al-Qaeda affiliated organizations, including the Islamic State, are not independent organizations. They are sponsored, and they are sponsored by the United States and its allies. It is documented, and unequivocally, we are dealing with the state sponsorship of terrorism, the recruitment of mercenaries, the training and the financing of terrorism.
Hey, so today we're gonna do this quick reaction video. This is not a reaction. This is just a topic that I want to discuss. And so I come across this guy. He's he's Canadian. He's a professor. He runs a forum, like a website. Do global type of analysis and all that, global geopolitics. And his name is Michael Chos. I ain't gonna pronounce his name, but because when I was looking at his kind of like articles written about him and all that, they call him a conspiracy theorist and all that. So he's very censored. So I mean, the name is over there. You can look it up. And so as you've heard about these so-called Al-Qaeda and all that, and these Islamic. Well, listen, I did have my own personal opinion about these so-called radical Muslims, these Islamic terrorists, etc. Well, it doesn't matter what I thought about it. We're gonna discuss like two concepts. Like the first one is this manufacturing of this organization and the involvement of the United States and the CIA and these three letters intelligence agencies and all that. I'm gonna use two conflict. Like there's this one about like the Burkina Faso, and then maybe I'm gonna mention something about the Palestinian conflict.
Oh, Chairman, we've always had to lead.
Okay.
The approach that we have had with USAID and the other things like the President's Initiative on AIDS, how does our U.S. approach compare and contrast to the approach of Russia in Africa and also Communist China in Africa?
Oh,
So as you can see, like there's he mentioned three things, but I can't talk about everything. USID, Russia, and China. Well, we know that the Americans hate Russia and China at the same time for no fucking reason. And the USID, if you've seen some documents, previously, I did not have them like prepared, but there was like actual document like funding, like direct money, financial transaction directly to so-called terrorist organization in Egypt, in Syria, in Qatar, in all over the Muslim country. And it's fascinating the amount. And I don't know, like America's gonna say, well, that does the Democrat? We don't care. We don't care about that. We're doing geopolitics analysis, and we don't care whether it's the Republican or the Democrat or these groups. That's the U.S. administration. That's America. As far as the Muslims are concerned, this is America. Like you can debate all that between yourselves. And listen to the response of
Chairman, we've always had to lead. So what you're seeing in those two competitors or challengers, they're following in our wake. They see what works as far as our influence and deepening partnerships through those soft powers, whether it be health diplomacy or whether it be in development type programs. So they're following in our wake, trying to replicate what we do best. And I think the African countries know this. This is where, as we start to look at going forward, as State Department starts to reset these programs.
Now he's talking about like what we do best. Like no. That's the difference. The involvement of Russia in Africa is different. They come as to do collaboration and commercial transaction and innovation, building factories. The same thing that China is doing. I know y'all writing a whole bunch of articles, saying that they're trying to trap the Africans, with death and all that. But that's exactly what you do. Like that's just a confession about like your tactics. No, America and trying to compare the tactics or the involvement of America versus the versus China and China, Russia and China, it's completely different. Matter of fact, it's the opposite.
Doubling down on what does work. I think we have enough capital built up in these countries for them to ensure their stabilization and also prosperity. The other two competitors are just trying to replicate what we do best.
I can imagine a situation, though, in which the ruling elite of a country is receiving gratuities on the side that in order to the benefit of the strongman leader and not to the populace of the country. Does that sort of corruption and bribery go on with regard to the Belt and Road?
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Tory and burkina faso, as they know that both, whether it's...
And so this is what I was trying to show you. He's talking about like Ibrahim Traore and in Burkina Faso. This is what they call, in America, they call these type of guys like house Negroes. This is what they call them. They love the white people. They love the... And let me bring up the so-called, involvement of this. So there was like a month ago or so. And this is an article that was written in 15 May 2025. It says, Al-Qaeda affiliate claims 200 soldiers killed in Burkina Faso attack. This so-called like stealing the gold reserve and then, increasing the defense for the presidents and all that. I am not an expert. I say it all the time. And I have the humility to tell you I can be wrong. But sometimes it's just like, Westerners, they don't do that. Like they say stuff and they claim that it is the truth. Even if the stuff they're saying can be verified with simple Google search and deny it, and show inconsistency in their own assertion and conclusion and all that. But as far as as Burkina Faso is concerned, like there was this thing a month ago, and then 2 weeks later, you have this Al-Qaeda affiliate, whatever that means, claims 200 soldiers killed. Now, I'm not gonna, the point is not to read the article or anything. Like I said, I wanted to talk about like two different conflict, and when the war started in Palestine and all that, I made a video about it, and I was looking at international law, and I said Hamas what they were doing was legal under international law, and then you have the right to an armed struggle against illegal occupation and all that. We talked about that. So my view about Hamas was that it's so-called like resistance group. Now, this thing over here, this is a Wikipedia. It's called Project of the New American Century. And it was mentioned by the Michael speech. And the American were talking about like a regime change in Iraq in 1998. And they were talking about the disarmament process and all that. Now, I don't want to go off topic about the thing, about the topic. This thing about Hamas, like I started to have a different view on the conflict. And there was this thing also mentioned by Michael. I've learned so much, from him, like, because, it's always nuanced and it's very complicated. I'm not telling you that this is like the factual conclusion. He's talking about like this idea of manufacturing mass casualty incidents type of things, and then they will categorize a group of people as terrorists. But those terrorists were planted by these same people that are claiming to fight them. And so the concept doesn't really have a specific name, but he called it fighting with the terrorists. And so now I start to become very skeptical, because when this war progressed, this is like 18 months of conflict, and they did not achieve the goal. One of the main goal is the dismantlement of the Hamas. That so-called terrorist organization group or whatever. But they can do it. They have the most sophisticated army in the world, the Israelis. Now I'm jumping from Burkina Faso, but like Burkina Faso, nothing really happened there. There's no war, there's no civil war, people dying and all that. But hey, it's a just small regional conflict. No, it's not like the Palestine Israel conflict, where it's like the scale is different. They have nuclear weapons, they got helicopters, they got missile launcher, they got this AI stuff made by Microsoft, and I think Google is also involved. I can't tell which company. I think Microsoft is definitely involved in this artificial intelligence type of weapon system and all that. They got these really sophisticated stuff, right? And they cannot defeat this militant group. And this militant group only got like basic weapons, semi-automatic rifles, maybe automatics, maybe bombs, some rudimentary type of missiles and all that. So it's like when you look at the difference in the well, it's like you can't call it an army. They don't have an army. They don't have tanks. They don't control the borders. Like Hamas don't control the borders. They control the navies. They don't have a navy. They don't have like intelligence. They have nothing. It's just a bunch of guys hiding in tunnels. So that's what makes me like very skeptical about, like, because the more they invade, the more they start this new operation. There was just like this Netanyahu talking about like new operation, and we're gonna control Gaza and all that. It doesn't seem like you have to admit to yourself this has nothing to do with Hamas. And because of Spain started to push sanctions on Israel, there was like this agreement, like not agreement, like this statement by the United Kingdom, France, and this joint agreement statement. I keep saying agreement. Yeah, there was this joint statement by the United Kingdom, France, and some other country. They say they denounce, and so it's shifting. I mean, they're not talking about to the public. What you have to remember, they're not talking to they're talking amongst themselves. This is just like to shape the narrative. It seems like somebody have manufactured this Hamas. I no longer think it's a resistance group. Because if it was just a resistant group, Israel would have no problem eliminating the leaders and the combatants and all that. They can do it in like a week. With all the weapons they have, with all the advanced stuff they got, all the intelligence, all that, controlling the borders and all that. Like, you don't have to do like all these blockade and siege and I mean, it's weird, and that's my conclusion about maybe this is manufactured. Maybe this Hamas group is actually against the Palestinian people, and I know it's controversial, to say that, and people want to claim that it's a resistance, and they want to free the people of Palestine and all that. Well, I was, in that same camp when the war begins. But like after everything we've seen, it doesn't sound like this is an accurate description of what's going on. So maybe they planted these people over here and they're just using them as an excuse. Because if you remove this Hamas, let's say I snap my finger like that and we remove all of them, then there's no more excuse for the invasion, the occupation, the settlement. All of that will be gone by tomorrow. So they need an excuse, and that's my point. Like the conclusion, just to conclude this video, it's about this. Every time you see these radical Muslim so-called, fighting the Jews or the infidels and all that, it's always there's always an official narrative and the truth. And the truth is always leans to the involvement of the West. Somebody planted them, somebody trained them, somebody gave them the weapon. I mean, I was watching this documentary about ISIS. These motherfuckers have tanks. Like, I know, like, you can you can get some rifles from here and there, maybe some grenades and all that. How the fuck do you get a tank? And so that's what makes me become very skeptical about these so-called like Muslim terrorists and all that. Anyway, if you have anything to add, leave it in the comments below. This is my point of view. I can be wrong. I hope I'm right. And then like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And see you next time.